Welcome to Can I Park Here? Brought to you by findafashiontruck.com. Nashay and Estrell's mission is to inspire future and existing small business owners. They don't claim to be experts. They're simply trying to figure this all out, just like you.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Can I Park Here podcast that can be found on startafashiontruck.com. I am one of your co-hosts, Nashay Snow, and I'm here with
Estrell Riles.
Well, people, we have our first repeat guest today.
Yeah, and she was actually way back when on episode 39, and she talked about how she started her brick and mortar. I think she had her brick and mortar for about 10 years, and then she closed that down and transitioned over into a mobile boutique.
But she wanted to kind of come back on, which I was so excited for because I really like her personality and just her vibe. But she wanted to come back on just to talk real talk about how things are going, what some of her challenges have been, just to give people just a good sense of hey, when you start this business, it's not going to be all rainbows and sunshine.
Right. So she kind of goes into, over the past year, what she's learned, what she expected, what didn't happen that she wanted to happen, just all kinds of things.
But yeah, so I think you guys are really going to enjoy this episode. Some of you guys might relate. Some of you guys who don't have your trucks yet or are about to start your truck, it might even make you a little nervous, but it should be a good nervous. Or not a good nervous, but it should just make you smarter. So by using the information that she's providing, it'll help you make better decisions in the first few months of your business. Oh, and before we get started, we didn't mention it during the show, but I just wanted to say congratulations to her because this past summer, her truck won an award for store redesign from the 2016 Gift and Decorative Accessories magazine. It was presented during the NY Now gift show. So kudos to her. I'm not sure if that was the first time a mobile boutique has won, but I'm sure if it was the first or one of few. So congratulations to Glee Gifts for getting that award.
Absolutely. So here we go.
Hello, everyone. We have Anne here from Glee Gifts back again. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I was on episode number 39 before last year, and I had a great time on that episode, and I hope to have another great time today.
Yeah, it was great. It was called Gift Shop Revamp from Brick and Mortar to Mobile Boutique. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad to have Anne back on because she just wanted to talk a little bit about kind of what she's learned since then and just kind of give us the realities of opening a mobile boutique. So we won't get, too much into your background. And I think we should just kind of kick it off and start with so how has the year been? Because it's been a year and 2 months-ish, right? Since you've started?
Yes. I think I spoke to you in September. No, I think it was, what was the date in episode 39? I think I was halfway through my season back then. And in 2016, because of the weather here in New England, I wasn't able to put the truck out, January, February, March, and part of April. It's just too cold. So I actually parked it in Plymouth, where I have another home. And this year coming out was an interesting year for me because when I came out in 2015, I had done 3 months, about 3.5 months of work. This year, I started in April, and so I had April, May, June, July, August, September, December under my belt, and I really learned a lot during that time.
It's you had those 3 months, and I think, if I remember correctly, they were pretty good. You were still getting your feet wet. Then it was a little bit of a break. And so I'm curious, so once you started back in the spring and summer of last year, How did it go? What was it as lucrative as you thought? Was it physically harder than you thought? Because we see that a lot in the private Facebook group where people don't. They say you don't realize how taxing it could be on your body. So yeah, so I'm just curious, like, yeah, what happened and what did you learn?
Well, going into 2016, I was overbought in apparel. So I really wanted to remove, sell my apparel off. And I had like boxes and boxes of stuff downstairs. So I thought I was going to have a really good year in terms of sales. But this is the reality. When you have aging merchandise on your truck, you just want to get rid of it. You don't care. Like in my instance, I was selling things at half price towards the end of this year. Like this was fall merchandise that can be converted. It can go from season to season, but who wants aged merchandise on their truck? And I know a lot of girls out there, they do have aged merchandise, and you can tell when things start hanging around. Because the truck, you're traveling in a truck, things get kind of banged around, it's dusty, there's sun on it, there's cold on it. You really want to turn the inventory as soon as you can. So in terms of to answer your question, in terms of my year being lucrative, my sales were $30,000 less than what I thought I was going to do. Ouch. Ouch.
Yeah, that hurt.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you a question. Like when it comes to inventory, because I know you had the brick and mortar store, I believe for like 10 years.
Yes.
So how is that different than the brick and mortar? Like, did you find that you bought too much inventory or too little at some point? And then was it that it really just sat because you were still trying to figure out like what your new audience was willing to buy in the truck versus in the brick and mortar?
I think those are all great questions. And I think it's really hard. When I had my brick and mortar, it was easy. It was predictable. When you have a truck, you have Mother Nature who's always working with you or against you. You have events that you think are going to be really popular, and they aren't. You can always count on a Valentine's Day if you have a brick and mortar, or Mother's Day, or, holiday between Thanksgiving and Christmas. When you go to an event with your truck, you're just not sure who's going to attend. So as far as going to events with trucks, you have to go to an event that has a ton of foot traffic. And when I'm saying a ton, let's multiply that by like a ton more. The only way that you're going to get people on your truck is if there's a lot of foot traffic. And I think that if you have, I'm a pretty well-known brand here in my area. However, your brand loyalty begins to fall away because people come on the truck. They're like, oh, this is so cool. This is so cool. People can't follow a truck. Like they can go into a brick and mortar because they know that the brick and mortar is stagnant. But a truck is moving all the time. So unless you build up which everyone should be doing, is building up their email and building up their Facebook, and their Instagram, and trying to get people to attract people to your truck, beacons, and however way you can do it, just to build that brand loyalty. And once they get on the truck, make sure that they know who you are, because I have to say that I need to do a better job at that, because the trucks are so mobile, no one really knows where you're going to be next.
Do you have a social calendar that you post on your website?
I do. Yes, I use a Google Doc and I post it there. And I use Facebook events as well, and I boost them. And Facebook is becoming more and more agile as far as targeting audiences and that sort of thing, and, demographics and where you're going to be specifically. So I try to do that, but, then some, okay, the weather changes and you don't go and you forget to say that you're not going to be there. You have to be careful with that. I had one woman who actually called me and berated me because I wasn't at an event that I said I was going to be at, but it happened to be like 110 degrees that day, and I just couldn't get down there because it was too hot. So, you have to follow up with all of this as well.
And then I wanted to ask, because, we were talking about, I'd asked a question about how lucrative was your year, and you were saying it was 30,000 less than you thought it would be. Just for like the listeners out there who are trying to kind of plan ahead, like how did you kind of like calculate how much you wanted to make by the the end of the year, and do you think there is anything you could have done differently in order to meet that goal, or was it just, it's like one of those things where it's unpredictable because of the nature of the business?
I think it's well, buying is a science and an art. Now there are open to buy programs for brick and mortars, and it's a simple formula to follow. And if you don't have any events under your belt, then you're not going to know how much you need to buy for that particular event. I was talking to a guy who has been in this business for 40 years. And he said to me, Ann, this is the hardest business that you're doing right now, the hardest of retail. Because I keep on saying, it's Mother Nature. People aren't going to come to the events if it's raining or if it's not promoted correctly and all that sort of thing. So what do you buy? And then the next event that you go to do you have the right merchandise for the next event that you are attending? So it's really, really tricky. I think if you want to go to an event that's a farmer's market, you're going to have a different audience than if you're going to like a women's expo. So you kind of, in my world, I've had a lot of inventory that I've been picking and choosing, but I know a lot of the gals out there that have trucks, they're just starting out and they don't have that available funds in order to do that. That being said, even though I had all the inventory to choose from, depending on the event that I was going to go to, I started panicking because I was saying to myself, I cannot keep this inventory, in my basement for another season or on my truck for another season because I don't want aged inventory. I just got back from the Atlanta gift show, and I bought for the spring season. And, some things that are coming out, I really want to have on my truck. But if I don't have the money, the open to buy to do that, then I can't buy it. So you want to turn your inventory. You want to get as much money as you can from it without whittling down your open to buy money that you have.
Mm-hmm.
So, back to this, I had this really honest conversation with this gentleman and he said, this is what happens. People do start to panic. And I don't mean panic in a way like, they just start to undersell themselves. And if you keep on doing that, you have to watch yourself. I need to watch myself. I'm not saying that everybody does this because I'm sure that there are plenty of people out there that are kicking it. But I need to make sure that I'm not going under my wholesale costs because I'm going to just whittle myself up into a corner and eventually I'm going to run out of money. You have to make money in order to keep your truck going. And there are expenses that, going into the new year, even though I was 30,000 under what I wanted to have for sales, I was only 8,000 under what I wanted to have in the bank for me to be okay for 2017. So, when you balance everything out, I kind of feel like, okay, I'm okay. I'm in an okay place. But in 2017, if I don't make these dollars work for me, then I'm going to be in trouble in 2018. That's the reality of it. That's just the plain, bold reality of it. You're going to go into your own funds and you're going to start using your own money, which I haven't had to do at all. And I don't want to. And once you start going under that bar, you're in trouble. You have to really rethink what your business model is, what your business plan is, because you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
Reality. It's reality hitting. Really. This is not having a truck. There's so many wonderful, wonderful women out there that are doing awesome things with their trucks. They're beautiful. Everybody on your Facebook page and your podcasts, and they're so creative and ingenious and, the forerunners of all of this. And we are the wow factor right now. But it's not an easy business. It just isn't. I thought it was going to be a lot easier than what it is. But, there are open to buys. When you go into market, you still have your minimums. And do you want to spend that much money on a minimum because you're not sure if you're going to, really sell it? So, there are a lot of things you need to consider when you're putting inventory onto your truck.
Now, I know you're going into year 2. Do you kind of like miss the brick and mortar and think you might go back to that if this year, the sales quota that you wanted to, or do you do you really want this to work because you like the flexibility of it? You know, because I know in a brick and mortar, you have to be there at certain days and certain hours, and it's the same place. So I
Yeah.
don't know if you would ever go back there, or do you really just want this to work because of the flexibility?
Well, you're right. It's great flexibility. When people ask me how's it going, I love it. I love my truck. I love the whole business model. But it's a part-time job for me here in New England in the Boston area. I don't miss the brick and mortar at all. I do not miss that. I don't think I would go back to my own. But would I work for a startup? Yes, I would work for a startup. But a lot of the corporations, the big boys out there that have their own, that have retail businesses, they're not going to hire someone like me because I'm their competition. If you're looking at the boutique, part of the business, I think that I am at the point right now where I'm doing a gut check. What's my gut telling me here? When I first began the truck a couple years ago, I was so wanting to be out every day and just make it like really lucrative and make it really, really work. But you're right, the physical part of it is hard. The Mother Nature part of it is hard. The whole where do I park is hard. And you get discouraged. And for entrepreneurs, because I think that everyone who's listening right now has to be an entrepreneur at heart, because they wouldn't be doing this if they weren't. We need stimulation. We need to keep going. We need something every day to fill our soul. And when you're doing something like this part-time, like I am, it's not filling me up. And that's a big void in my life because I need that. And so that's what I mean by a gut check. Like, what's my gut saying? And I'm mature enough and old enough and experienced enough to say, you know what, yeah, I'll keep the truck, and maybe I'll sell it, maybe not in the next couple of years. I'm definitely going to be going through 2017, no matter what. But my truck isn't me. I have to kind of separate myself from that. And I have a couple of boys. I have Kaylin and Michael. One's 23, one's 21. I have my wonderful boyfriend Michael, and we want to do things. And I want to be able to provide for them like I have in the past. And having a truck that's only part-time, won't be able to do that. So financially, you have to look at it realistically and just be adult about it and say, okay, you know what, this might have been fun, but I might need to move on with this in a couple of years.
So what are your goals for 2017 in order to get to where you need to be financially? Have you set any?
Well, what I wanted to do was to review what I did for 2016 and report back to you guys. But I've been on vacation. I've had this awful cold, and we're putting an addition on the house. And so, life kind of got in the way. So I haven't been able to do that analysis yet. But my goals this year are to really look at what I did this past year and see what worked and what didn't work. Now, one of the things that I think is crazy about this business are the vendor fees. You can go to a vendor event and spend, anywhere from $0 to $4,000, $6,000, depending on how big of the event is, right? It could be a 3-day event, a week event, or whatever. You can go spend nothing and make, $3,000 to $5,000, or you can spend, $4,000 and just make that at an event.
Right.
So
it's like so crazy.
It is
right?
crazy. It is crazy. And I'm going to tell all the listeners out there that ask for discounts and ask them, because the people who do more events with them, with the particular vendor, they get a special treatment. They just do. It's just like the politics of the whole thing, of the whole vendor business. And you want to be one of those people. You always want to be on the right side of them, but you kind of have to work your way towards that. And also try and belong, or hook up with a couple of trucks that that you like and you get along with. And what we're doing here in Boston, and I'm going to mention their names in just a second, but we have, there are myself and 3 other truck sisters of mine that we formed this little group. And we believe that there are power in numbers and that we are better together. And we're negotiating our vendor rates together so that the vendors will understand that, we add something to their event. We're the wow factor. We're the people who are in the retail arena. And we're happy to come to these events, but we're not going to pay as much as the people who are paying inside, because we're outside and we don't need it. We really don't. And it's just a shame that some of these vendors kind of take advantage of the fact that, you're taking up space, but, we are, but we're really not. And, when you're outside, if you're the only mobile truck outside and everybody else is inside, you are just a ghost. If they don't promote you from the inside, no one's going to know that you're outside. So can I give a shout out to my truck sisters?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So my truck sisters are Camille from the Chick Shop, and Missy and Vicky from Post and Grove, and Justine from Sass and Sparkle. And then there's me, Anne from Glee Gifts. And yeah, so the four of us, we get together once a month and we talk, about what's important to our trade and what we need to do to educate people, and what we need to do to stick together. And we just a really nice support group for one another. So I encouraged everybody out there, because this is very lonely. If you're not talking to people and reaching out, that's one thing I learned. It's a very, very lonely place to be. And like I said, entrepreneurs really need to have that stimulation from other people and other things in order for them, for you to thrive and, do the best that you can do, and to be this person in the world that you are. So I really encourage people to go out and talk to others and try. And there's going to be some people out there, I know, that they consider themselves competition to others. And that's too bad, because I really believe that we all should support each other, especially because most of us are women-owned businesses.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great that the four of you guys get together, because there is like a power in numbers,
Yeah.
And especially if you're like working with vendors, you could work with each other to figure out like how much they're charging each one of you, or go together and negotiate for things like that.
Right. Yeah. And that's what one of our goals are.
Yeah, and then one quick question. I know earlier you said that you were kind of doing it part-time. Like, do you have another full-time job, or have you just chosen to do it like only on weekends or nights and weekends?
Well, there's not a lot of places to go actually around here, unless it's on the weekend. So yeah, so that's what the issue is. And I never wanted to work on Sundays. So it becomes, you have to think of your lifestyle. And fortunately, my boyfriend Michael, he's been very, very busy the past year. So he's had things to do on Sundays when I've been working. So it hasn't been that much of an issue. But this year, I'm going to look at the schedules. And now that I know more about places where I can park and people to get in touch with, I hope to be doing more during the week.
Yeah, because I know like those office buildings, because I know some people like kind of, try to build relationships with businesses, and like where the food trucks go, they'll go too.
Yes, right. Yeah. And that's what I'm gearing up for this year.
Okay.
If you look at retail, I don't think that retail is going to, retail isn't in any great shakes these days. Retail is not good. And I just came back from the Atlanta market this past Sunday. It was quiet. It was subdued. I didn't see a lot of excitement out there. I didn't see any new product. I think that the only time people are going to be shopping is really for those major holidays: Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, the occasional birthday, and holiday. Now, if you think about us with fashion trucks, or any kind of truck out there, I think we're impulse. I think that when people come on our trucks, they're more impulse spenders that come onto the truck, and you have to capture that audience somehow. And during the summertime, I don't think anyone shops, to be honest, unless you're in a tourist area. And I think if you're in a tourist area, that's great. And I'm lucky that I can go down to Cape Cod and capture that audience. But once again, if it's too hot, people don't come out. If happens to be a thunderstorm coming across, the Cape Cod, then people aren't coming out. So the weather is a huge factor in the business that you run.
Now, I've heard from other truck owners that home parties are, they bring in the big bucks. Do you ever do those?
I did, I think 6 or 7 last year, and not last year, the year before. And I think I did 3 this past year. And yeah, I don't think that they're, I don't know, maybe it was me. Maybe I didn't advertise enough. Maybe I did reach out to the people that I went to the houses before. And I don't know. I think this past year with the election was just a weird year. People just weren't, people were tense. People were not willing to spend as much money. They weren't going out as much, doing as much. So I didn't have as many parties. Now I know that's probably making an excuse that I should have really been hustling, but that's the fact of the matter is I just didn't. So yeah, I hear the same thing. I mean, I think, oh my God, what's wrong with me? How come people don't know? Because when people come onto my truck,
but every area is different. Like New York is different from San Francisco. That might be different than like Tennessee. That might be different than Orlando. And there's different shopping habits. The buyers in different cities just respond to different things. So sometimes I feel like it could be the area too.
Yeah, I think that where my sweet spot is hair salons. That was my sweet spot this past year. I did a couple of events at the hair salons, and they were very, very lucrative. They were great. So, I think that's going to be my sweet spot for 2017 as well.
And then were there any other, like during your first year of the mobile boutique, were there any other lessons learned, like things that if you could go back to 2016, you would have done differently that we haven't covered?
Well, I think that, what you have on your truck is really important. One of the things is to make sure that your truck is lit really well, which mine is. But, if I can, say anything that's really important as far as your truck, the way your truck looks, just make sure that, to the listeners out there, make sure that when people enter the truck that they can see things, because if they can't see your product, it kind of looks dismal. So that was really important to me, just to make sure that I have really, really good lighting. And I think, thinking about the gross margins that you have on your truck, I don't know. I hear a lot of people saying, okay, we're going to do, times 3, your cost times 3.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if that works for a truck. I've been in retail for a long time, and I get the point. I get it. I totally get it, because you want to mark it up, because if you're going to, put things on sale, you want to be able to at least get some of your, you make some money on it. But if you have, and once again, I think it depends on the area and the demographic that you're bringing your truck to. But at least what I have, I don't think that people are looking for, $150 item on my truck. So what I needed to do for this year, this buying year, is to look at my wholesale costs and make sure that what I'm getting is, a lower cost, so that if I were to mark it up 3 times, it's not sticker shock to my customer.
Right.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I think you really have to be careful about what you're looking at for margins, and what your wholesale costs are. And from the very beginning. So, and glass just doesn't work on a truck. I had, glass on my truck in the beginning, and it just doesn't. Gravity is not your friend. Mother Nature, Uncle Sam, and gravity with trucks, they're just not your friend. If you have anything on a hanger, gravity is gonna pull that sweater down. It's gonna get those thingies in the shoulders, those, bumps.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And Ryan is like, of course, then the customer won't want to buy it because they're going to be like, oh, are these permanent? Or, yeah.
Right. Exactly. Right. So you want to be sure that, you don't have to. That's what I mean by aged merchandise. You just have to keep on turning it so that things don't get crappy. Mm-hmm. And you can't go fast in a truck. That's the other thing, the big learning thing that I've learned. You just can't go fast in a truck. You have to go slow. You have to look both ways. You have to use your mirrors. In the gravity, if you're going to slam on your brakes, everything's going to come sliding forward. And those are things that I'm still dealing with to this day.
Right.
I really need to do a better job at. But it's one of those things, you kind of start thinking about things, and I kind of like, my mind starts wandering, and I'm listening to my music, and it's a beautiful day, and all of a sudden I go slam on the brakes, and wow, ooh,
Right.
it's uh-oh,
Not good.
no. The other thing, let's see, I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, so it seems like I've been talking a little bit about exit strategy here,
A little
and
bit.
yeah, a little bit, and and that's not a bad thing. It isn't. It is not a bad thing, because when I had my brick and mortar, I thought, about 5 years into my store, I started thinking about my exit strategy. What would it look like? What would it be? And it did take me a while to get there, but I wasn't in a panic sort of sense of mind when that came to be. I had a plan. I knew what I was doing. I didn't feel like I was selling out and just giving up. I just had a plan. And I think for those of us who are so courageous in doing this type of work, you need to pat yourself on the back and have a plan in case it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, that's fine. Lots of entrepreneurs have many different jobs, wear many different hats, have many different skills, and you can just move on from this and learn from it. So I think it's really important to think about, what is closing up this look like? Do I want to sell my brand? Do I want to sell my truck? Do I want to, convert my truck into something else? Do I want to, just get rid of the whole thing? Just whatever it might be. It's just have a plan in place so that you're not in shock later. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's like you hope for the best, but plan for the worst.
Exactly. Right.
Right?
Yeah, you do. Yeah. And it's one of those things where, it's easy to be disappointed, but, it's also, you just have to keep on moving on. It's, and it's a great business. There are so many great businesses out there, including mine. And I'm hoping to, get into, it takes a while to get the gears running with this,
It does. Now, the other 4 trucks you mentioned, what's the longest running truck? I'm just curious. Like, has there been anybody who's been in business for a few years?
Camille from the Chick Shop, I think she started a few months before myself. I think Missy and Vicky from Post and Grove, I think they might have started around the same time as me. And Justine from Sass and Sparkle, she just opened her truck in, I think, September. Yeah.
So you guys are learning together.
Yes. And I reached out to them, to be honest, because I was feeling real alone. I just didn't really know, were people feeling the same thing as me? And this is specific to New England, because it is a little bit tougher due to the climate here. And there's not a lot of this type of thing around. So, how do we all learn together, and how can we support each other so that we feel as though we are a viable business? And I really do think it can work. I really think it can work. But I think that there has to be a lot of education with the vendors and the government and customers to understand what this business means. And there's not a lot of that at all. There just isn't. And so for me, it's a little frustrating because I'm ready to go. I'm like, okay, here's my beautiful truck. Where am I going? Are you going to open? You're going to greet me with open arms, and it's going to be one of those things where I'm going to, open 2 or 3 more trucks, in the next couple of years. But it's a slower process than I expected, and it's frustrating. Reaching out to these gals, we all we don't, we're very productive. Like we talk a lot about Instagram and a lot about different ways to get social out there. We were actually at an event a couple months ago. It was the weekend in December where it snowed, and all 4 of us were together, and we had to dig each other out. And we had white lights, and we had our tents up, next to our trucks, and it was very Christmassy, and it was really fun. We had a great time, and we made a little bit of money, but the camaraderie was there, which was even more important to me because it's the spirit in which we do our business too. It's not all about the money to me. It's more about, how can we learn and support each other, and how can we, move this mobile business up into another, step in the ladder, and make people understand, or hope to educate people to understand that, we are a business that needs to be taken seriously. So that would be one of my goals for this year, is to continue on that track, to be positive, to, fix what for me in my truck, what has been wrong. But there's nothing you can do about the weather. that's, the,
Right.
that's the thing that's, and you need to be really smart. One of my goals this year, to answer your question, is to be really smart about those vendor fees, because they can eat you up. They can really,
Yeah.
really eat up any profit. And, what some people, I say if someone's charging me $200 to enter a vendor, to enter an event, I'll say to them, well, then I expect to do at least $2,000 on my truck, and if I want to do $2,000 on my truck, okay, how much inventory do I need to have? Well, I believe that you need to have between, $7,000 and $8,000 in order to do that, 2,000. So, that's what I mean, where you really have to look at your numbers. And if you keep, in my case, like at the end of the year, I had this huge, clearance sale for the last 3 days of the season, where I think I started even giving things away because you get so sick of looking at them, over time. So I had this bag. If somebody bought something, I'd say, okay, put your hand in the bag. It's your free gift today. People love that, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, they were just little tchotchke items that I was tired of looking at. But I also did that at my brick and mortar as well. And people just, people love it. But, once again, I'm not getting any money for those products. And that eats away into my profits. And you can't keep on doing that if you want to stay in business. You have to be profitable, or else you're not going to make it. So, and going into 2017, I also put a budget together for myself. And,
smart.
Yeah, the budget, includes my vendor fees. It includes my gas and maintenance of the truck. And this year I factored in $3,000 just for maintenance for my truck. I factored in my insurance and my cost of goods sold. Yeah, so my truck is paid for, so I'm lucky that, I don't have to worry about that. But there are expenses that you have that you have to make enough money to pay for, or else you're not going to be in business next year. So you have to keep on looking at this as a business. And, and so I'm saying that this is a very part-time position for me.
Right.
If I gear it up, if I work, not part-time, if I work part-time, meaning half a week,
right.
then I would have made that $30,000 that I didn't make this past year, but I would, but for whatever reason, it just didn't happen, whether it was the weather, I know I keep on saying the weather, I'm sure everyone's tired of me here saying that, but, or the wrong event. So you have to be very savvy, learn as you go. And that's what my learning lesson for this past year was. I'm learning as I'm going, and I'm jotting things down. I'm becoming more aware. I'm sharing information. I'm getting information from my truck sisters, and I'm trying to make smart business decisions for my business, because I won't be in business if I don't.
Well, I surely hope that 2017 is amazing, because it sounds like there is that love for it there, but it needs to be worth it, right? You have to make a profit. So yeah, no, I think this has been like an amazing episode, and I can't wait for the new truck owners and future truck owners to hear it. So when they are creating their budget and then the plans for their truck, existing or future truck, that they'll be like a little bit more aware of things that they need to consider. So, hopefully they'll have like a profitable first or second year.
Yeah. There's one other point that I wanted to bring up, and that is pay attention to your family during this process being a mobile truck business. I think that, in my situation, I've had a ton of support from my family and just, my significant other and, my kids and everything. But it wears on them as well. It is a new business, and I don't know if anyone has ever, even brought this up before, but their part, like I said, we really like our Sundays together as a family, and a lot of these events that are around here are on Sundays. So, does it really match your lifestyle? And, how much are you willing, or is he willing, or is she willing to sacrifice in order to make your dream come true? So, it's important to just pay attention and to talk and to process and, to make sure that the decision that you're making is right for everyone that's around you and the people that you love and the people that you want to keep loving.
Right. You don't want to neglect them.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And it can easily happen, as in my situation, I have everything that's shipping to the house. My house actually became my store, and Michael, he was got kind of tired of it. Actually, he'd step in little boxes, and I've heard other people say the same thing. It's one of those things where when you have your own business like this, it kind of takes over. So for me, it was a learning lesson, and okay, you have to clean up after yourself and make sure that nothing is all over the place. There's can't be too much Glee here because it's not going to be. we need a little glum every once in a while.
Well, cool. Well, since you've been on here before, we won't ask you our standard wrap up questions, but I just want to say thank you for being, I think this is our first repeat guest, right, Estrell?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're our first repeat guest. So thank you for coming on again and giving the audience like a kind of like, this is the real deal. Like, here's, where I am a year after, because I think sometimes, we're interviewing people at the beginning and sometimes in the middle stages too, where everything is going right. So it does seem like everything is really easy, but they need to hear the hard stories too. The true challenges also. Yeah.
Right. Well said, Nashe. And I think bravo to all the wonderful women out there and men, and you too. You have done a wonderful job at educating and just, bringing things to the surface. And you guys are doing a great, great job. And I really happy New Year to everybody out there. I wish you all tons and tons and tons of success. And if anyone ever wants to talk to me about anything, please, reach out. I'd be happy to, just talk a little bit more if there's a little nugget that you wanted to learn more about.
Perfect. Thank you, Anne.
Okay. Thank you, ladies.
I told you guys she was awesome. I mean, that's real talk, right? I mean, it's not going to be, easy peasy that first year. And I really do believe in it's all about community. And I think that was really smart of her to get with the other trucks, and then they negotiate rates, and they just figure out how to put themselves out there together, working together. I think having other people that you can bounce ideas off of and then also kind of vent too with is really helpful in any business.
Yeah, there's definitely power in numbers.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to them trying to negotiate vendor fees.
Yeah, I mean, not even fashion truck related, but with Estrell, we often talk to each other about different things in our business, like maybe if something weird happens on Etsy or if something weird happens with the sale, or if we're thinking about a new idea or whatever it might be, it's just always good to have somebody to talk to. And so I think that's great that she got that. And then those other tips that she provided too, as far as thinking about inventory and not having anything old in your truck, that's sitting, collecting dust. Because you're right. I can go into a store and I can tell when something's been sitting there for a while.
Yeah. And then also, I think it was, she pointed out that she started to think about her exit strategy. Not saying that she's planning to close her business, her mobile business, but she wants to be prepared that in the event that she does not make her goals and she doesn't, things don't go right, she will have her plan for what's going to happen with the truck. So she's not sitting there surprised or, overwhelmed about what's going to happen because she planned it out already.
Right. And I think that's key for any business. Even for Estrell and I running Find a Fashion Truck, we have to think about that too. Would we ever want to like sell this business? And if we did, like, how would that look? You know, it's like, it's not to say that we want to or not, but it's just to say like, we have to make sure that we think about that. So if for some reason something happens or something changes in our life or whatever, we know like what that exit strategy looks like.
So we hope you enjoyed this episode. We surely did.
Yeah.
Be sure to go to iTunes and give us an awesome rating. Leave us a review and, 5 stars. We'd really appreciate that.
And also, please make sure to, if you love the podcast and you want to help support it financially, you could go over to Patreon, Patreon, and actually support the podcast by providing a donation. And you could quickly get to our page on Patreon by going to startafashiontruck.com/Patreon, again, which is Patreon. And we have it all over the website when you see that little microphone.
So thanks for parking here.